Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So I'm currently in the process of looking for a new job and I'm going through the interview process right now. And I thought a good idea for a video to make would be how to succeed at technical interviews. I know that technical interviews are pretty tough for some people, myself included. I find it pretty challenging as well. But I thought I'd share with you guys what I do to prepare for a technical interview. So first thing, I just want to talk about the interview process. So usually in my experience, what it's like for a software engineer to go through the interview process is that there's usually, several rounds of interviews. At first, they're going to be asking you behavioral type questions and questions about your experience, about projects that you've worked on, about the languages you know, stuff like that. And then your successes, your failures. And then at some point, you're going to have to do a technical interview as well. And at this point, they're going to be testing your coding ability, your problem solving ability. Usually this comes in the form of a take home assignment or just a live interview where you're on Zoom with a couple of other developers, you're coding as you go and they're asking you questions and stuff like that, right? So both parts of the interview process are very important, the behavioral part and then the technical parts. And on this video, we're going to be focusing only on the technical aspect of the interview. Okay, so the first thing I want to mention about a technical interview is that usually it's going to be different than the coding that you're going to be doing on the job. When you're going through the technical part of an interview, usually they're going to ask you coding challenge type questions. Usually what this entails is using some sort of data structures, analyzing the time complexity, the space-time complexity, and then explaining all this kind of stuff. And this could also include, system design type questions where you get given a certain situation and then you have to design kind of like a database and an API around that. Right? So I think it's really important to, know the difference between the coding that you're going to be doing on the job and the coding you're going to be doing for a technical interview. When you're practicing for a technical interview, you want to practice certain types of questions, certain types of coding challenges where you're using these data structures and algorithms. But then, once you actually get to the job, you're probably not going to be using them as much and you're going to be doing more generic coding. So now that we have that explained, I want to show you guys a couple of things that I do that help me prepare for interviews and that have shown me success in the past. All right, so now we've hopped into the computer and what we've got here is LeetCode. LeetCode is basically a website with a ton of different coding challenges. And what I basically do to prep for interviews is that I do a lot of these and I just go through, I start off with easy. For example, you can look at this kind of question, right? And this is basically what LeetCode is. You get a description of a certain challenge. Right here, you have an array of integers and then a target, and you return the two indices of a certain target. Right, so I think I have some code here, probably from a previous time that I was doing this question. And so what you can do is run the code. You give it input, then it shows you what the output is, what is expected, and it's really cool because you get a lot of examples to go off of, and then there's an IDE right here to code. What I also really like is that you can code in whatever language you want. Basically, I'm really good at JavaScript, and that's kind of what I use. And then, once you're done, you submit the question, you see, okay, right, it's a success. You can basically see your previous submissions as well. And if you're stuck on a question, the cool part is you can go here, you can see people discuss the question, you can search up, if I'm using JavaScript, I want to see what people are doing in JavaScript. If I'm having a lot of trouble. And then you can basically look here, you can get people's solutions. And it's kind of a community that you can go to and practice these coding challenge style questions, right? So if you go to the homepage, another thing I really like, but this is a more premium kind of feature, is that you can look at problems, and then you can kind of just go through what the top companies are asking, right? So you can see, okay, Google is asking these kinds of questions usually, and then you can kind of sort through easy to hard and then start somewhere and, hop around these questions, do as many as you can. And basically what I do is that I find if at the beginning of the process, I do some easy questions, I spend a couple of hours, working, and then you can move on to medium style questions. And these, definitely take me a lot longer than easy ones. But as you complete them, you get better. And the more problems that you solve, the more problems you'll be ready to solve as well. So you'll be so much more equipped for answering many different questions that the interviewers can ask you if you solve a lot of these problems. The odds are, if you solve, let's say even a 10th of these, how many are there? There's 50 in here. So let's say you solve 10. That'll put you in such a good position because you'll have practiced a wide variety of different questions. You would have used a wide variety of different solutions. Some solutions can use depth first search, or others can use a dynamic programming solution, and you can really practice at these different topics that you're not as good at and really improve your skills. I am a big fan of this website. I use it a lot when, exclusively basically when I'm interviewing for a new job. I use LeetCode, and it's honestly one of the best ways that I know. I don't know of any better ways to practice for interview style questions, for these data structures, algorithms questions. There's no better way to practice than just by doing it. right? Now, this is also super useful if you're starting off coding. If you're a complete beginner, you can go on this website, go to the problems and just do the easiest problems, go through them. And what you'll see is that you can practice, different data structures. You can use heaps and stacks and arrays, and you can really kind of take what you're learning in kind of an intro to CS class and really apply them here. So I would definitely check out this website. It's a great website for practicing. There's a ton of different topics you can use right here. I was mentioning depth first search, dynamic programming. If dynamic programming you're not that good at, then you can practice it in these questions, and it's really an awesome resource that I think you should definitely take advantage of. There's so many different topics, there's so much content here. Now, another thing you can do to practice for interviews, this might sound super stupid, but is to actually do interviews, right? The best way to practice for something is to do it as many times as you can, and the best way to practice for an interview is to just do interviews. I learned this at one of my internships in college, where one of my managers was talking about how they used to make interns, do interviews while they were interning with the company, right? And then through these interviews, their confidence and their ability to succeed in interviews increased so much just because they got so comfortable in these stressful situations. A lot of people find interviews super stressful. A lot of great developers might, not be able to solve a problem that is really kind of simple when faced with this, one-on-one Zoom call that has a decent amount of pressure. But the more interviews that you do, the more comfortable you can get at doing interviews, I think your chances of succeeding are going to skyrocket, because if you can go in a room, if you can go in a Zoom call, with a lot of confidence and the knowledge backing up that confidence, and with all the practice you've done on LeetCode and all this stuff, then I think that really sets you up for success. So also what you can do is when you're employed, I would probably do an interview every couple of months, maybe even less than that, just to keep yourself fresh and to keep yourself, ready for, just in case if you want to look for a new job. You'll be more prepared if you have taken an interview more recently, as opposed to, if the last time you did an interview was 3 years ago. Now, I wouldn't just apply to any type of company. I would definitely apply to positions that you're actually interested in, so that if the interview process does go well, you do have an opportunity and you do have, a new job offer, and that's always a great thing to have. What you don't want to do is just apply to any kind of position with a ton of different languages. If you want to be like an iOS developer and then you're applying for a Python position, there's really no need to do that. You want to apply to companies and to positions with the skill set that you have and that you're interested in, so that you can practice those specific interviews and then get better at those types of questions, right? I really think this is a great way to practice. A lot of people are afraid of applying for jobs. A lot of self-taught developers, spend a couple of months practicing and actually, gaining experience coding and building side projects, and they just don't know, when am I ready to apply for jobs? And I would say, apply for jobs whenever you want. Obviously, you can't apply if you have no experience and no side projects. Probably no one will interview you. But if you're, just starting out as a software developer and you're self-taught and you have a couple of projects on your belt and, you're able to build a decent resume, then I would say apply whenever, and there's never too early a time, because worst case, they don't interview you, right? Otherwise, they do interview you, and then you either get a job, or you gain the experience of doing an interview, right? Your first interview is going to be pretty stressful, but then you're going to get through it and realize it's really no big deal at all. Especially when you see the questions they ask you, the technical questions, you'll be more familiar with it, and it'll really make you more confident, right? So as always, I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, I would greatly appreciate a like and a subscribe. I hope you guys have a great day, and take it easy.